The opportunity next is to talk about emotional intelligence, its connection to the data world. This has kind of been infiltrated into a lot of different topics, so I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. She spent almost 9 years, maybe a little bit over, which is a testimony to her loyalty at Unruly. Is anyone familiar with Unruly? It's a really awesome business because it speaks to what is out there in terms of value and emotion of videos, not just them being seen. So, and you're based here in London, which is even better. So I want to welcome Kat Jones to the stage from Unruly.
So at Unruly, obviously there was quite a lot of you who already knew who we were, but we are, at our heart, we're about ad distribution and about getting content seen and watched and loved. So we work with brands and agencies who have video to get that video out and seen and engaged with. And my role at Unruly is to kind of look after kind of everything that we're trying to do with data. And a lot of that actually around 2012, I was in a product role. And the products that I was building were around our emotional intelligence content analysis, so testing these videos before they were being launched and working out, what's the emotional impact, how could that be stronger, how does that interplay with the brand metrics and recall and sales, and also looking at how do you identify subsets of people that a particular video resonates with really strongly so that you can go and target those people specifically. So you're maximizing the potential of the video that you have. So that's really where I've kind of come from at Unruly, and now my role is a bit broader and I'm looking after all the data things we're doing, looking after our first party stuff. I won't go into it because this is a little bit of a roadshow of some of the stuff that I'm doing, particularly with the Lotame platform as well. So we've found that Lotame has made us a lot more powerful in the way that we're able to action this data. I'll give you a run through of a few of the things that we're doing with data at the moment. I'll probably stand off to the side a little bit. Does that work? Yeah, okay, great. So this is a really exciting thing for me to talk about because this is the first time I've been able to talk about it. We've been working on this product, Real Audiences, for a good few months now. One of the things that I was very focused on over the last quarter was about getting very close to our key clients and understanding really what are the key audience challenges that they have at the moment, and how could Unruly help to support those challenges. And I had about 4 meetings in a row where every client that I spoke to was saying the big challenge that we have is that we talk about personas. So we brief using a persona, and anybody that's kind of interplayed with a client will have probably had this experience. And they know they have, so we've got Organic Ollie here, and Organic Ollie loves quality food, cares about the origins of food, and checks the labels, and has quite specific attitudes and specific behaviours. And this is based on tons of amazing data that brands have about their consumers and their buyers, and it's how they think about their audiences, and it's how they brief out when they're trying to do an ad campaign or when they're trying to create content. But the challenge that they have is that then that's very difficult to actually target in real life. So you know who Organic Ollie is, and you know who Ready Meal Rick is, or whatever your brand personas are, but you can't easily then apply that to digital targeting, or in fact TV targeting or anything. So they end up with quite demographic reductions, and you lose a lot of this insight around attitude and behaviour. So Unruly, actually, this was kind of good for me to hear because we're quite uniquely positioned to help with this. We have a huge heritage around emotional intelligence, so because we've been running these video testing tools back about 5 years, we've got tons of data about what works, what doesn't work, who does it work for, how does it work, and what's the importance of emotion and what's the importance of personality and how do they interplay, and quite a lot of thought leadership around that. So that's good. The other good thing is that we run really extensive surveys all the time. So we're in regular contact with over 20,000 people globally each month that we're talking to, running these surveys, saying, watch a video, tell us what you think, tell us about you. So we have decided that we can address this using those tools. for clients with a view to giving them a lot more clarity around who are those personas in a way that you can actually action digitally. So we're kind of translating that organic Ollie to a real life organic Ollie audience built specifically for that advertiser, so that now when they have a campaign that wants to target that persona, we're ready to go and we can start to deliver that off the bat. So that's what Real Audiences is, and this is how we do it. So we have the profiles, so we're working with a brand to say, give us all of the detail, and usually they can send us like a 4-page PDF with lots of graphs and insights and attitude statements and indices. So they'll send us tons of data about who these audiences are, how they think, what they feel, and we'll use those to construct survey questions like this one that you see on the screen to try and get to the heart of how these people are thinking and what they're doing. So you can see from this question, I'm happy to pay a premium for fresh food, I prioritise local food. These are things that organic Ollie might say. Whereas if you look down at the bottom set of options, these are, convenience is key for me, I don't want to cook, I can't cook. These are things that Ready Meal Rick might say. So we're collecting data here on actually the attitudes that the brand is looking for to craft these personas. So we then will tag people that are coming through our survey either as Organic Ollie or Ready Meal Rick or not anybody at all. And we're just piggybacking off surveys that we're running all of the time here. So if it's a UK advertiser, we'll just pop this into all the UK surveys that we're running so that we can collect this data. The survey flow then is we have respondent information. So this question goes up front with that. We then have Watson. We have an integration with IBM Watson, which allows us to ask the panelists, would you please give us access to your social profiles? So sign into Facebook or sign into Twitter. Well, you don't even need to sign into Twitter. Just give us your Twitter handle. And we can then ping that across to Watson, who can say, great, we can see this person's an extrovert, they're very family-oriented, blah, blah, blah. So they give us a full personality diagnostic on that person, according to what the kind of stuff that they're posting on social media. So then we're relating the persona groups to the type of personality traits that are coming through for those groups. And then finally, we're asking them to watch several videos and asking them about their responses to the videos as well, and how do they feel and what do they think and do they remember the brand. So that's how we're collecting the data. Once we're actually using this data, we're just mapping that then. So we've got lots of organic Ollies in our database, lots of Ready Meal Ricks in our database, and we're just then going back to that and saying, okay, let's look at the personality traits that come through very, very strongly for these audiences versus an average group. So we can see that Organic Ollie might be very confident and cheerful, and Ready Meal Rick might be self-satisfied and practical. So we can then start to translate that into an actionable audience. And this is where we're using Lotame integration, which I will tell you a bit more about on the next slide. So for this purpose, we have a whole lot of first-party data segments, which are powered by our survey collection also. And a lot of those are to do with personality traits powered by Watson. We have emotion segments, motivation segments as well. So what we're doing here is we're saying we can generate this personality profile for Organic Ollie and then put our personality segments that map to Organic Ollie together into an audience that's then available for targeting. Hopefully that makes sense. The other nice thing that we can do at the end is that we can say, well, we use all of this data we've collected about Organic Ollie and Ready Meal Rick, not only to identify the targeting profile so that we can go and reach those people for the brand when we distribute their videos, but also to look back at the engagement levels they've had with different types of video. So we're putting this into lots of surveys. Each survey is asking people to watch 4 videos. So across the sample, we've seen a lot of exposure to a lot of different type of videos from different brands, different verticals. So we can start to say, okay, these are the things that consistently Organic Ollie loves to see in video. Here's the stuff that he really doesn't want to see in video. And therefore, here's your kind of content roadmap for creating great video for Organic Ollie versus for Ready Meal Rick. And this is helpful for clients right now because there's increasingly more flexibility in content creation. You might have your hero ad, but there's actually a lot of appetite and ability now to also create your 6-second mobile versions and serve different versions to different people based on the kind of content that they want to see and how they would like that hero cut down versus somebody else. So that is what Real Audiences is. And then this is a bit more on the personality segment. So I've said we're mapping this to personality types and that we have a whole lot of personality segments. So the way that we are building our personality segments is, again, using the survey data and the integration with Watson. So we will have a whole series of, I think Watson returned to us about, well, over 100 categories of personality type with a confidence score for each person. So we can see this in the survey. What we're doing is we're dropping a Lotame pixel every time for each of those characteristics. We'll drop a pixel so that we can see, we drop cookies, we've got a cookie opt-in for our panelist. So we can then see, okay, this person was an extrovert, this person was an extrovert. And we build this cookie pool in Lotame that is all the people that we know are extroverts based on the Watson analysis of their social profile. And we have that cookie pool for each of the personality types that we care about. And then we're using Lotame's lookalike modeling to extend that out into an audience of the scale that we can actually go ahead and target. So that's kind of how, when I say we're mapping to our personality segments, that's what our personality segments look like. That's how we've built them. And this is where you can start to see some of the other ways that we use personality segments. So real audiences is quite it's a powerful strategic tool for clients. This is the kind of stuff we're talking to clients at quite a high level, not brief by brief. This is, come in, let's talk about your audience strategy and how we can support that. We're putting this into our ongoing surveys. It can take a month or more, depending on the market, to build these data pools to sufficient size that we can map out those audiences. So actually, brief by brief, we can look at the emotional profile of a video, say, and we can see, oh, this video is really exhilarating. So it's maybe got some extreme sports. It's maybe a GoPro video with some snowboarding and skiing going on. So if it's a really exhilarating video, we can use this wheel to say that, great, that means that conscientious, persistent, and passionate people are going to really enjoy this video, because we're looking back to our data set here just to map the personality segments with the type of content that people are enjoying. And then we can also see stable and logical coming through as important for exhilarating videos here. So this is another way that we're using this. So clients that haven't done real audiences or don't have the time to do that, we can still benefit from this personality-based targeting to identify who are the right people that this is going to work for. Some of the other things that we're doing are a bit more video specific. So here we're testing, so I've said we're testing specific videos to identify the subsets of audiences that are very important for a particular asset. And these are the three that we think about usually. So this is a product called Custom Audiences. We run custom audiences on the vast majority of campaigns that we distribute before we actually put them live. So this is quite a quick turn. It's about a 24-hour turnaround survey product. So we're just recruiting a sample of 500 people. As we get the asset from the client, we'll put it in front of them and say, please watch the video and tell us a various series of responses to this particular video. And we use the data that comes back from that survey to classify these three audiences. So we have an emotional audience of people that feel a strong emotion when they watch the video. We have a sales driver audience that are, that's quite vertical specific. So for FMCG clients, this would be light buyers. So people that buy a bit of the brand, but not loads of it. So they're open to the brand, but there's plenty of room for them to go and buy more. Whereas for an autos client, this would be autos intended, somebody that's in the market for a car. And then we have a bespoke audience, which means that a client can narrow in on a behaviour that's quite hard for them to identify and target, so something quite attitude-based. We can just put in a question to ask about those attitudes and then generate the profile of the person that has those kind of attitudes. So I'll show you a bit about how that looks. So the emotional audience, we know, and this is one of the things that Unruly we've been talking about for ages, and actually most people kind of get this now, but emotion drives all sorts of great stuff. So obviously it drives engagement. If people feel a strong response when they watch a video, it means they like the video, they watch it for longer, they click out when they're told to, that kind of stuff. But we know also this drives brand association, recall, and ultimately purchase as well. So this is a really important thing for us to be optimizing for. We're collecting this data in our survey, saying, once you've watched the video, did you feel any of these feelings? And if so, how strongly did you feel these feelings? So we can kind of score people for the intensity of the emotion that they're feeling. And, was this something that generated a physiological response? Were they crying with sadness, or were they just a little bit sad? We have the sales driver audiences, so I've kind of mentioned this. Light buyers is a big one, so a lot of FMCG brands use this. So the idea with light buyers is they buy a bit of the product, you know they're open to it, but there are loads of them, and they all have room to significantly increase their consumption if you can reach them with the right messaging about your brand. So these are a really important audience to understand what does our light buyer look like, and then auto-intenders I've mentioned as well. So the bespoke audience, so examples of this, if we're talking to a movie client that wants to test a trailer, maybe a really important audience for them is we know that Tom Cruise is the star of this. We just want to target people that love Tom Cruise, and that's what the profile that they want to understand. So this is the kind of stuff that the bespoke audience is used for. So again, we're doing this in exactly the same way. We're popping, this is just the flow through our survey that I showed you earlier. We have lots of questions about a person up front. We have the integration with Watson, and then we have their responses to the video. So it's kind of, we're looking at the responses to the video, usually. So for the emotional audience, we're using that to identify who these people are. So it's people with high scores on the emotion scales on those questions we're asking. And then we're mapping that back to, okay, but what were the characteristics they gave us when we asked them about them, and what was it that Watson came through with as being a strong kind of personality association for this person as well. So I think we're then mapping that. So I've mentioned that we've got personality segments. I've said we've also got emotion and motivation segments, and these are built in quite a similar way. So motivation, this is about what gets people up in the morning. So cool hunter would be one. You know, this is somebody who wants to consume content online because they're looking for the new thing and they want to be the first to discover it. There are others around self-expression and free spirit. So if you're a free spirit, that's kind of a motivation for you. You want to express that you're not constrained by the rules and you can do your own thing. So this is about understanding what motivates people. Emotion is just how do they feel. And our emotion segments are built slightly differently. They're not just a model out from a seed from the survey. We actually tag each video that we distribute with its emotional profile. So if we come through and we see that when we test a video, it scores very highly for nostalgia, we will tag that as a nostalgic video. We'll drop a Lotame pixel on the end, on the complete event for that video. So usually we think completion's quite a nice proxy for lots of types of engagement because it's kind of a given, right? If you like the video, the most likely thing is you're going to watch it right to the end. So once we know a video is nostalgic, we're going to then fire, when we distribute that to people, we're going to fire the end nostalgia pixel every time that anybody gets to the end of that video because we know it's nostalgic. So then our cookie pool for our emotion segments, these are actually people that we know respond very well to nostalgic videos or to exhilarating videos or to warm-hearted videos, say. And then that pool is actually much, much bigger than the pool that we're generating from the pure survey data, which means that we do model that in Lotame as well, but it also means that cookie pool is available for us to target directly if we want to stay very true to those original people without modeling out to lookalikes as well. You just got this trade-off with scale. So this is kind of a big campaign from Sport England that was running, I think, last year, and they had a few of these kind of really empowering ads. And this is the profile. So when we tested that, if we look at the emotional audience, so who was it that saw that video and felt a strong emotional response, whatever that response was, they felt it strongly. What we can see is the psychographic profile. So this is the stuff coming through on our emotional segments, motivation data, and also the personality data. So this was working really well for altruists, very well for free spirits, and then we had a high index on cooperative and sympathetic as personality traits as well. We can see we had some contextual stuff, so we're asking here as well, you know, what are the kind of environments that you spend time on online? Where are the sites that you are spending your time? And you can see here, this is where the highest index is that actually people that spend a lot of time on home and garden sites were 7 times more likely than average to be in this kind of emotional audience. So this is a really important environment. The cookie-based targeting is great, but actually this kind of shows how important some of that context is, because it's very seductive to think that everything is about the cookie-based and this person specifically has these traits, and that is a really important part of what we do, but it's really important not to forget how important it is to be looking at the context that these places are being served in as well. even if you haven't got a cookie on that person, if they're in that particular environment, there's a very good chance that they're going to be receptive to this particular creative. And then finally, some social demographics. So some of the other questions that we're asking up front are, who are you? Where do you live? How many children have you got? So this is where we see that the highest social demographic groups for this particular video to feel very emotional about were female, 3+ children, divorced. So then, how does it work? So this is a video that was a Sport England campaign. It's about getting people fitter. They wanted people to join a gym off the back of the campaign. And you can see this is just based on the survey data. So this isn't kind of end campaign results stuff. This is just saying once we've profiled these people, we know they have a higher emotional response. Let's look at the other things that they have. So we can see here brand favorability on the left. You see the orange here is the emotional audience and the grey is the control, so the 500-person average. And you can see this huge uplift. So they've got 81% of them have increased their opinion of Sport England, having seen this video versus before, versus a 50% for the Nat Rep. The control group. The same kind of thing is happening with promoters, so how many people are actually going to go out and promote the brand, having seen this ad. And then finally, the end goal here was we want more people to go and join a gym and start to get fit. And again, the emotional audience is almost twice as receptive to that message, saying, actually, yeah, I do think I will go and join a gym, having seen that. So it shows kind of how powerful this stuff is, but obviously that's just survey stuff. So that's right up front, that's claimed behaviour. So the other thing that we've done to look at this is a big study controlling for lots of different things over on the right-hand side that can affect video performance, and looking across lots of different emotional audience for lots of different campaigns, and also looking for the sales driver audiences and the bespoke audiences that we're delivering within custom audiences. And here I was saying completes is quite a good proxy for engagement and other behaviours. So when we look at completes here, we can see for the target audience that the client would have targeted anyway, we've got 27% completion rate. When you go to the emotional audience, you've got a 34%, so that's a big uplift. And then even higher when you go across to the sales driver audience and the bespoke audience as well. And this is kind of not claimed, this is like actual fact on a campaign. So this was a great study for us. And that is a very brief run through of some of the stuff that we're doing with data. And before I finish, I'm going to do a shameless plug of our data roles, because we've got loads of them live. We're looking for data scientists and data execs and data engineers. And I feel like this is a great room to mention that to. And if any of you know anybody or are interested, I would love to hear about everybody you know. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. Appreciate that. Perfect.